How many fights have you been in the last 20 years? Like, when you talk about martial arts, like all the things that people think about martial arts people, and then when they actually meet the martial arts people, they realize how different it is from what, like martial arts, generally they think they're really tough, which, let's face it, they are tougher than usual, but they're also generally the kindest person and one of the most unlikely people for you to see get in a fight.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think that's an interesting facet. I mean, how many fights have you been in the last 20 years?
None.
Yeah, me either. So, and I think it's funny. I was just in California a few days ago, and people, when they know you do martial arts, they just, like, to be honest with you, this trip, it was an awesome trip with awesome people. Almost none of them knew. They wouldn't shut up about it. Like every time they were with me, that's what they wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Which I love talking about martial arts, but it's like, shouldn't we be, I feel like there's 7 people here. We're only talking about my martial arts. Like, I feel kind of like, hey, let's talk about some other stuff.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that people are attracted to.
Yeah.
And fascinated by. Have you seen, like, where would you put when you started practicing, or in any middle phase, to how popular martial arts is then versus now?
So that's a great question. So it's kind of interesting because when I started in the 1970s, martial arts was at a big peak of interest, right? Because you had Enter the Dragon in the theaters, you had High Karate Cologne, right? You had James Bond movies where they would do a few little things, and it was just the coolest thing that everybody. Kung Fu was the TV series with David Carradine.
Awesome.
Everybody wanted it, but there was no supply. Most towns had one dojo. And so it was just a really very odd time. And if you could, sometimes in those days, it was even hard. They would, oh no, we're not open. We're not taking students right now. Right. Mm-hmm. Many dojos didn't accept kids. Now kids are the majority of, the business model of most dojos are kids. Right. But they didn't accept kids. They didn't make uniforms in kids sizes back then. Mm-hmm. So you find some Japanese for little Japanese people, then you kind of use the smallest one that you could possibly get if you were small enough. But so there was that. Now that was neat from the standpoint that it was really special to be part of a dojo, right? And it also gave the teachers, there was like the sword with 2 sides, right? The one side was that gave that teacher the autonomy to say, this is what we're going to do. This is the standard, and that's it, because there was no business pressure. There was none of that. There was an endless supply of people that wanted to join. On the other side, that also allowed people to maybe be a little bit more aggressive than what they probably should have been. They didn't understand teaching principles. Remember, a lot of the early martial arts people came in Japan or Korea or other places, and they learned in the military when it was there for a specific purpose. They learned a specific way of thinking, and they also took a lot of things that were really non-martial art traditions, that were really military traditions, and brought them into the martial arts world, so that when the world kind of changed, some of those guys got left behind a little bit. Mm-hmm. Now, I'll be real brief with this, but I would just say, but now today we have the explosion of knowledge and the greatest athletes in the world, I think, are probably martial artists at this point.
Agreed.
And there's knowledge and there's sharing and everything's going in all kinds of different directions. And the best part of it all is now the era of professionalism has entered into martial arts. So a good dojo is like, going into a good golf club, in that there's professional standards. There's a way that people address one another. It's really the essence of what the art was always designed to be. It's just that we went through a little rough stage in the 1970s and 80s.